Hi and welcome to Knitting Blooms. This is episode 24 and today is October 8th and my name is Tina, otherwise known as Bloomingknitter on Ravelry and Plurk. And this week has had some highs and some lows. If you were on Plurk on Thursday, I think it was, I kind of was having a little bit of a weird kind of day for me. I typically do not have problems with depression, and I don't think it was a depression on Thursday. I think it was just a weird feeling. But I think I finally put my finger on what my problem was on Thursday. Thursday, I didn't feel like doing anything. I didn't feel like knitting. I didn't feel like spinning. I didn't feel like playing Sims. Nothing seemed to be working. I finally decided to watch some podcasts, and I watched Diane from the Knittables, and I had some chocolate, which I've been back on my diet now for this week. I've been really counting my calories and logging my foods on Spark People, and I just needed some chocolate. And chocolate and Diane were the perfect combination because that pulled me out of it. But like I said, today I put my finger on what it was, and I think what it was that caused that kind of like a funk on Thursday was I started the week off with an extreme high. I mean, there was lots of things that happened at the beginning of the week that just every day was like something new. I think it was either over the weekend. I think it must have been over the weekend. The new Kindles were announced, which was awesome. I mean, I've had my Kindle 3 for not even, just about a year, and I had a Kindle 2 before that, and now I have to get the new Kindle because it's a touch screen. I love the Kindles, so that was very exciting that those came out. And the fact that you can now rent library books on the Kindle, which was awesome. I mean, I have so many books that I already have purchased and downloaded for ebooks and stuff like that, but being able to do library books now is just unbelievable. In fact, I did download my first library book on the Kindle. I think it was like the first day I found out, the next day. I think it must have been Monday that I downloaded it, Monday or Tuesday. So that was fun. And then, you know, I went through all the library books that are available on Kindle and, you know, marked a whole bunch that I wanted to read. So, I mean, that was just incredible. That started my week off great. Then, on Tuesday, the iPhone 4S was announced. I was so excited about that. When I knew it was coming all morning on Tuesday from about 10 o'clock, and I know that Apple's out in San Diego or somewhere out west, and they have their conferences later, you know, because I'm Eastern time and they're a couple hours behind us. So all morning I'm refreshing the Apple page, and I went on, I guess it was about 10 o'clock, and it said the store was down for maintenance, and I'm like, oh, this is exciting. I knew that the announcement was coming, and they had predicted that they would announce the iPhone 4. Or the iPhone 5, actually. It ended up being iPhone 4S. So when I saw that the store was down for maintenance, I just got really excited, and I just kept refresh. You know, every 10 minutes or whatever, you know, if I had a moment, I went over to the page and refreshed the page, and I guess it was a little bit after 1 o'clock, maybe like 1:15. I don't know, I can't remember because I was so excited and I didn't even look at the clock, but it was sometime after 1, I believe, that they finally had some information about the new iPhone. And it was so funny because I must have got on there right when they were still updating, or maybe everybody was waiting for the announcement, because all the pages took forever to load, and then I would be denied. You know, kind of like if you've ever done a Volmai's update and trying to, you know, wait for them to post their site, it was like that. I mean, everything, I kept getting denied, and I had to go back and refresh the page. But I was very excited about that, and I did order my iPhone S yesterday. They were able to be pre-ordered, and it will arrive by next Friday. I'm so excited. That was a huge high for me on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, my trifecta of awesome yarn got delivered. And I'm going to just show you that right now while I'm talking about it, because I know I'll forget about it later. I knew the package would be awesome, obviously. What else would the name be if it wasn't awesome? But it was beyond my expectations. I was very excited when I got the package. This first package was from Heather at Highland Handmaids, and what it was, I guess the theme that they're doing is the yarn, and then their yarn, and then other items in the package that kind of portray their neck of the woods, their area. And Heather is in Maine, and so she sent things that were from her area or reminded her of her area. And this was really cool. Oh, I know there's something else down in here that I can't see. What happened? Oh, there it is. Okay, so let me show you what I got. I got it's a goat's milk and glycerin soap shaving cream shampoo. It's very interesting, and it's from dirtymoose.com. thedirtymoose.com, and it's a bar of soap. I mean, I can't smell it through the wrapper, but it's a bar of soap. It looks like it's a handmade type of thing, and that's kind of neat. And it's goat's milk, so I'm not sure how that is. Probably going to be very, very smooth on the skin. And along with that, from the Dirty Moose, is a lip balm. It's in a little tiny tin, and I'm sure you can't see it, but it's the ingredients are soybean oil and cocoa butter and all sorts of, looks like a lot of natural products. But it's just a lip balm that you can use, and I did use it as soon as I opened the package, and I really do like it. And it has SPF 15 in it, so I know that this is going to get used. It's probably going to go into my my little knitting bag, because I always need lip stuff. So that is going to be perfect. And this is going to go in my bathroom, because I can't wait to try that out. I didn't want to open anything and use it until I got to show you. And then there's a little package here that is for habanero dip. It looks like it's just it's a little package of seasoning that's in there, and they give you instructions on how to make the dip. And this is from Winterport Company, and it's famous in Maine since 1992, and it's all natural spices and stuff. So that's going to be fun to make up. And then I got, this is a closet and drawer sachet, and this I love. I like, you know, a lot of people like to use lavender to keep the moths and the bugs away from the yarn. And I like the smell of lavender, but not an overabundant smell. This is supposed to also help with the repellent of moths and insects, and it's mostly, and it's herbs, but not a lavender scent. But oh, it smells wonderful, and I will definitely be buying more of these, because I could put one on every shelf, and that would be perfect. This is from the Casco Bay Soap Company, and it smells wonderful. It smells absolutely wonderful. And I will link all these in the show notes, and I will have the banner running at the bottom of the screen as well with the websites, because these are awesome. And if you're not in this club, I'm so sorry that you're not in it, because it is absolutely fabulous. And this is only the first month. There's still 2 more months to go. And the best part about it is the yarn, obviously. And here it is. It is 1,000 yards of lace weight. 1,000 yards. And it's baby alpaca, or 70% baby alpaca and 30% cultivated silk. And oh, let me tell you, it is luscious. And the color variation, it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's all blues with some deeper parts and some spots that are a little bit lighter, and it is absolutely gorgeous. This is her Mountain Laurel lace yarn. I guess that's the base. And the colorway is White Brook. And I want to use it right now, but you know what? And we talked about adding to my stash last week, so this is another 1,000 yards that I'm gonna knit. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna be knitting forever to get through my stash, but I'm gonna have fun doing it, and hopefully you'll be here to watch and see my progress. But so this was an awesome first package for the trifecta of awesome yarn. I am so looking forward to the next 2 months. And you know, and actually this is the first kind of yarn club that I've ever joined. I have never joined a yarn club before, because I always thought, well, what happens if I don't like it? What happens if I don't like the colorway? And the fact that this particular yarn club, you're getting 3 months, but you're getting from 3 different vendors, that is totally awesome. And I hope that they decide to do this again, because being able to have a yarn club like this is just incredible. I would absolutely join again if they decided to do another round after this, because this, being able to have 3 different vendors, and I've seen all of the stuff from all of the vendors, and I love everything that I've seen from them, so I knew that I wouldn't be disappointed. And it kind of also takes me a little bit out of my box, because I tend to, you know, gravitate to the pinks. Obviously, you can see from my stash, the pinks and the green, the bright greens, and a lot of the bright colors. Although this is a very bright color, and I do love it, and I know that I will definitely use it. But I like to have that opportunity to try different things. But I'm very excited about this, and like I said, I definitely am looking forward to next month. And I believe next month comes from Lisa from the Fiber Nymph, and she does the 90% Knitting podcast. Oh, and Heather, she does the Fiberista Files podcast. And so that should be coming at the end of October or early November. I'm not 100% sure, but very excited about that. So, oh, there goes my light. Just a moment. I have a faulty extension cord. Anyway, so you can see how when Thursday came along and all of these things had happened earlier in the week, how Thursday nothing exciting was happening, and it could be a huge letdown. So I think that's why I had the little funk on Thursday. I have gotten over that, and I think by watching Knittables, having a little chocolate, and getting back to my knitting, I was able to pull myself out of it. I know, difficult, but it happens. So, now that I've spent the first 14 minutes of the podcast talking about how my week was, let's get into what I actually got done this week. And I'm going to change the format up just a little bit. Usually I start with my whips, but I'm going to start with spinning today, because besides my whips, I have a lot of stuff I want to talk about those things. And then we're going to talk about the Knit Your Stash contest. And hopefully we'll still be able to keep this under an hour. So I'm going to get right to my spinning. This week I did do a fair amount of spinning. I can't say it was a lot, but I did a fair amount. I did work on my Yarn Hollow BFL and Tussa Silk. This is the spinning that I typically take to work with me and spin when I'm at the office. I spin this one. Obviously, it's not as easy to take Viola, which is my wheel, my Ladybug wheel. It's not as easy to take her to work with me, so I take the spindle. And again, this is being spun on my KY spindle, and it is Yarn Hollow's BFL and Tussa Silk. And for the life of me, I cannot remember the colorway. But I have this much left of the second third. The first third is already on a bobbin waiting. This is what's left of the second third, and then I have one more third to go. My goal will be, right now, I'm hoping to get this third done before I leave for Knitting in the Mitten. And that will be the first weekend in November. So that's what, 3 weeks away? So I think I can get this done. It's not that much. I haven't weighed it, so I don't really know. But I'd like to be able to take the last third with me to Knitting in the Mitten. So I can get started on that. So that will be my goal for this month, is to finish up this second third, pull it off of the bobbin, and be ready to start the final third of this by the time I go to Knitting in the Mitten on November 3rd. And so that will be exciting to go to a retreat that I can just sit back and relax, because all the knitting retreats that I've been to have been ones that I have hosted, and although it's not, once you get, most of the work is done before you get to the retreat, but there's still things that have to be done while you're at the retreat. But this will be my first retreat that I don't have to prepare for other than to pack, and I can just go and relax and enjoy my time. Although, I mean, I enjoy my time when I go to Knitopia, but this will be like the less stress, because all I have to do is get myself there. So that's my goal for my Yarn Hollow BFL and Tussa Silk. And I have so much stuff around me, I don't know where to put this stuff after I've talked about it. That's why I'm kind of tossing things everywhere. The next thing on my spinning is my, this is my 4 Rivers Yarn and Fiber Merino. And this is all I have left. I have one more section of tundrels to spin up. I did some spinning today when the girls were here for club, and this is all I have for the first half. There's still one more half to do, and this, I think I can get this done this week. I mean, it's a lot faster on the wheel than it is for hand spinning on the spindle. So, I mean, I was getting, if I actually work on this, I think I'll be able to do it, because before I was able to get approximately, oops, that now they're all tangled up, approximately 1 to 2 of like a tundra like this done in a day, in an evening when I was spinning. So if all goes well, I should be able to get this spun up by next week. In fact, I might just make that my goal, is to get this one done so I can finish off this bobbin and be able to start the second bobbin next week. This is going to be a 2-ply, so I'm just going to be taking this and then whatever gets on the other bobbin and 2-plying it. It's going to be quite thin when I ply it. I mean, I want to take a picture with a thread. I mentioned that last week, but it is thin. I mean, it isn't thread thin, but it's pretty darn close. And that's why it's taking so long to spin up, because it is so thin. I mean, this was only 2 ounces. So, and it's taken me, I mean, I can't even remember when I got started. I would have to check my Ravelry page to see when I started this, but it's taken me a while, and there was periods that I didn't spin any at all. I mean, summer was hard for me because it was so hot and so muggy, and I didn't want to spin. So now that we're into fall, although today isn't very fall-y, I think it's 80 degrees outside right now, and it's, I think, close to 5 o'clock. So I'm hoping that I can get this spun up. And this is my bag from Lois. I bought this, Lois at Knitting's My Bag. I bought this a while back. I mentioned it on the podcast before, and I've been using it just to hold my fiber. I just kind of take the little handles and loop it over where my my bobbin brake goes into my wheel, and I just kind of, it just hangs there. It's a perfect little bag for my bump of fiber. So, yep, I'm hoping, like I said, to get this done this week. At the very latest, I'm thinking next week, but that's my goal. Another thing that I did some spinning today on is when the ladies were here for club, Jennifer, you can tell your mother I mentioned your name again. She said that her mom was like impressed that I had talked about her on my podcast. Because I just met her, and she was on the podcast for the Podcaster Challenge. Was that the first day that I met her? Yeah, that was the first day I met her. She came to club that day, and she had been watching the podcast. So, but Jennifer and Michelle were here, and Jennifer mentioned that she saw the podcast. Was it 2 weeks ago? I don't even remember. Whenever I got the fiber, the different types of fiber that were non-wool. And she said she saw that, and she was still very interested in spinning, so I pulled out this fiber, and this is a sea silk, and I started spinning it up just to try it, and I gave them a bit of fiber to try. And obviously they both struggled because they had never even spun a wheel before, because both of them are allergic to wool, and so they haven't been able, you know, the normal stuff that's available for spinning is all wool. So I purposefully, when I went to the spinning loft a few weeks ago, I bought some fiber that was not wool so that they could try it out. And this one is sea silk, and it is very silky, and it is very slippery. But they did struggle a little bit because they weren't quite sure how to do the drafting, you know, spinning the spindle. And I know when I first started, it was not a comfortable thing. And even Jennifer found out that both her and Michelle spun for a while, and probably a good 45 minutes at the beginning, and then they both put their spindles down. And then afterwards, later, before Jennifer went home, she picked the spindle back up, and actually she picked up the spindle that Michelle was using, and she was spinning again. And even she found out that sometimes you just have to put it down and let it rest. So if you're learning how to spin, maybe try spinning for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then put your spindle down and work on knitting or something else. Don't try and learn it all at one time, because Jennifer, when she picked it up the second time, she says, "Oh, wow, this feels so much more comfortable," you know, and it's almost like it took her body some time to, and her mind even, to kind of understand the process. And then when she picked it up the second time, it was a little easier for her. So this is the first thing that I have spun. And when I bought this fiber, I did not expect to really make anything of it. I just bought, I mean, it was 2 ounces. I figured I'd buy it, let them try it, you know. I wasn't planning on spinning it to make something specific for it, I guess. So I'm just kind of spinning this up just to try it out and get a feel for it. I really do like this sea silk. or it's C-cell actually, C-cell. And it is very much like the C-cell, handmade in C-cell that I bought at Stitches Midwest. It's very shiny, it's very smooth, and if I were to spin this up and then two-ply it, I think it would be very similar to the C-cell. And that skein, I don't recall off the top of my head how many yards was in that skein, but that skein was $40. So if I could buy C-cell and spin it, I mean, this was $7 for 2 ounces. So let's say I want, you know, 4 ounces, that'd be $14, or maybe 5 ounces, you know, that would be, you know, $17 or whatever, $17.50 or whatever. But I can very easily see spinning this up. Definitely, definitely. I don't know if I would want to spin it on the wheel or if I'd want to spin it with the spindle. I'm doing pretty well with the spindle. It is a very slippery fiber, and but it does have a very long staple. So it's not like it's slipping out of my hands. I think the girls, one of the reasons why they had such a hard time, it's got I would say a 3-inch staple length. And I think one of the reasons why they had trouble with it was because, like most beginners, they hold a death grip on the yarn, on the fiber when they're spinning it. And I know that because I did it, and I'm sure that so many other people do it when they first start spinning because they're afraid that it's going to drop. But you have to be sure to let this hand release that fiber and let it draft out. But it is just a glorious, glorious fiber. And like I said, I'm definitely going to be getting a bit of this fiber to be spinning up at some point. I shouldn't be buying fiber, I shouldn't be buying yarn, but at some point in my future, I will be buying more of this C-cell. Probably, I would think a good I would say probably at least 5 ounces. Only because then I can do a decent sized shawl with it. Maybe 6 ounces, I'm not sure, but it's definitely going to be fun to spin up. It's very, very, very silky and very shiny when it's spun. So that has been my experiment for today, and it was quite fun with the C-cell. So that was spinning. So let me jump right in to my whips this week, and I have a lot of them because let me tell you, last week was hardly any progress. This week I have progress on everything. I made progress on every single project that I have on my needles. So what do I start with? Let me start with On Point because that is probably the most boring project. And only reason it's boring is because it's brown and it's lace and it's stockinette. The project isn't boring. It's just not very exciting to look at right now because all it is a flat piece. But here's my little stitch marker, and I got this much done. I cast off the back. I finished I'm sorry, this is the front. I cast off the front, finished the front. My idea or my goal was to get at least the first arm picked up on this. But after reading the instructions this morning, it does recommend that you block out the pieces and then mark off, because what it is you have to lay the back out flat and then pin the back down to the right measurement, measure off certain areas because it's like for the shoulder and for the arm. And I thought, you know what, I was thinking that I would just be able to hold it up and do it like you would normally do any shoulder seam. No, I think it will be much better if I block it out to the measurement that's called for in the pattern. Mark it like they say, like they make the suggestion, and then seam it up. So I didn't work on this project today because all the ladies were here for knit club, so I will probably try and get this started to be blocked out maybe tonight, probably not tonight, but probably tomorrow, so I can work on it this week, because I am going to have a lot of knitting time for the next 2 weeks. I forgot to mention, this is another one of the great things about my high this week. My boss is going on vacation for 2 weeks. He's going to be out of town. He is going to be at the office on Monday, so I have one more day to get him all wrapped up, and then he's going to be gone for 2 weeks. So you know what that means. There should be lots of knitting for the next 2 weeks. So I'm going to have all my projects ready. I'm going to take them to work with me, and as soon as my work's done for the day, I'm going to start knitting. So hopefully there's going to be some finished objects in the next couple of weeks too, because I haven't had any of those either. So progress has been made on point. The front was cast off, and what is, oh, that's, I was feeling something in there that probably shouldn't be in there. My tape measure. I'll probably be looking for it later and then wonder where it is. So hopefully I will get that blocked to probably tomorrow. I'll probably be working on other things tonight, just because usually after I podcast I like to chill out and I don't want to be worrying about blocking. So that's on point. Then I have Lady Eleanor. I made progress on Lady Eleanor as well. I did almost 2 full rows. Almost 2 full rows. Last week I was right here. I was working my way this way, so I had only done 3 small blocks on that row, and I did the rest of that row and then back on this row. It still looks the same. I know, I'm sorry, but I am making progress. And I have my little stitch marker to prove it. Well, technically, I could have moved the stitch marker, but I didn't. I move the stitch marker every week when I get done, and I move it to where I was. And so I will move it right now, and I'll put it on this last square that I finished up. So next week, I'm hoping to have 2 more rows done. That would be awesome, because I still have quite a bit. This is the second ball, and there's still quite a bit left here, and I believe I have 2 more skeins. So this is going to be twice as wide as what it is now, which is actually good, because right now this wouldn't wrap around me at all, barely. So it's coming along. It's been on the needles forever, and I really, really would like to get it off the needles, but it's moving along. One thing I want to mention, I think last week I mentioned that I was going to do some experimenting with picking up my stitches, and I did. I watched Karen from Round the Twist video about picking up stitches. She was working on I think it was a log cabin blanket, is all garter stitch, or it was a modern, I don't know what the pattern was. I can't remember. It was one of the Mason-Dixon's. I think it was log cabin or modern baby blanket, or it's not a baby blanket, but anyway, that's beside the point. I watched her video on how to pick up stitches, and when I have been picking up stitches on my edge, the way that you do these edges is you slip the stitch so that when you are picking up your stitches, it's easier to see it. The edge kind of looks like a crochet chain. And so when I've been picking up my stitches, I've been picking up both of those edges, and you may be able to see right here, this is what the back looks like. You can see what looks like a crochet chain going down the back, and I like that look. It looks nice, but I tried doing it when I was only pick up one of the stitches, one of the sides, one of the, like the legs. And I pretty much did that on these last 2 rows. And this is what it looks like. You can sort of see the chain coming down, but it's more spread out. Now what I like about this is that it seems to lay a little flatter when you only pick up the one side of the stitch rather than both of them. And I think I like this better because, like I said, it does lay a little flatter. I know I'm changing it midstream and half of it's going to be one way and half of it's going to be the other, but once it gets blocked out, I don't think there's going to be that much of a difference to how it's going to look on the back, so I'm not too worried about it. But I am going to continue with this method where I'm only picking up one of the legs of that slipped stitch along the edge for the interlock. So I really do like that a lot better. And I'm doing the same thing on the sock yarn blanket, because before I was doing the same thing where I was picking up the stitches and I was picking up both of those legs or going under both of those legs in order to pick up my stitch. But it does lay a little flatter this way, and I think that in the long run I'm going to like this method better. So if you haven't seen Karen's tutorial on that, go check it out. And I meant to find out what date that was posted. It was a couple of weeks ago, I want to say. Maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago she posted it. So definitely check that out if you want to see how to pick up stitches either in garter stitch. You can use it for interlock, you can use it for the baby blanket or the sock yarn blanket, whatever. So that is making some progress. Not a huge amount, but definitely progress. Next, the sock yarn blanket has also gotten more love this week. Last week, I think I had 1 square for you. This week, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 squares. I did 6 squares. I haven't woven any of the ends, but I did 6 squares. This is where I left off last week, on this square right here, and I did this one, and 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 I did this one this morning. So, again, not a huge amount of progress, but progress nonetheless. And I do have a lot of ends. I think I haven't woven ends for quite a while, and I think that's probably my next thing because it's all the way back here, and I think that was, it's been a while since oh here, this is the last one that I wove ends in on. So I've got all of these, just the ones on the top, because the ones underneath have already got their ends woven. And so all of these. So yeah, that's going to take a while. I probably need to do that. And like I said, I did switch over on the baby blanket doing the same thing. So you might be able to tell these squares that I did here when I picked up the stitches along the edge here and here, yep, I only picked up one leg. But if you look over here, or even just down further here, you can see that it looks slightly different. And I don't know, I might try and take a picture and see if you can see it a little bit better, but it does lay a little flatter. And again, with the blanket, it's not going to be that big of a deal either way. And technically, I don't have that much done. I mean, I'm expecting this to be big enough to go across my queen size bed. So I have a long way to go. So that 6 full squares. Almost 1 a day. I did most of them last weekend, and then I did the 1 today. I did 5 of them last weekend between Saturday evening after I recorded to Sunday morning, or Sunday during the day, and then the 1 today. And so I will move my stitch marker for you, my little orange stitch marker, and put it on the green one that I just finished today, so you'll know. And I will be working across this way now. I was at the corner, that's why I kind of did a scattering of stuff, because I was at the corner and I wanted to get another layer up here too, because I always forget how to do that provisional cast on, and I have to look it up each time. Although I have the paperwork printed out and in with my sock yarn blanket, but sometimes you just don't want to have to be thinking, and sometimes I don't want to think, and so I don't want to have to get back to this corner and have to think. So I try and do it when I feel like thinking so that I don't have to worry about it when I don't feel like thinking. So 6 squares completed on that. Oh my gosh, we're already at 40 minutes and I still got 3 more projects and a lot more stuff to talk about. I think this is probably going to be over an hour. Sorry, the last 2 weeks you got short episodes. Now this week it'll be a little longer. I did also make some progress on the sofa saver. This is the sofa saver. I was right here last week. I don't know if did I show this? I don't think I showed it last week, but I did move my marker after the podcast because I wanted to make sure that I only showed you what I had done for this week. I did make progress on it. It doesn't take very long. I think today at Knitting Club I did 4 or 5 rows. You know, I was trying to move through my projects so that I could say that I worked on all my projects this week. Oops, and I better move this one because I haven't talked about that one yet. So I tried to make sure I got a little bit of progress on everything so I could say that I made progress this week. But there's still a long way to go on this. I just started the next skein. I think I have 6 skeins total. This is skein number 2. And I think I have 4 more skeins to go. So I just started, I mean literally this row that I just finished. Here's my ends that I just did. I think I had like 4 stitches into this ball. So I still have 5 more skeins to go. I want to say I think I have 6 skeins of this yarn. And I probably will go ahead and use the whole thing. Sammy does like it. She tried to climb in the bag today, but I think the reason that she was trying to climb in the bag was because she was trying to get my attention. But she did try and climb in my bag. And this is the other bag that came with the set, wherever I put the other fiber that I bought together. This is the big bag that came with the little bag that looks just like it. So progress on that. I also had progress on my basic socks. Yes. These are the socks that I started before I went to stitches, and then I got the foot's done on both of them, and then I decided they were too tight and ripped them back. And now they both have 56 stitches. 54 I think. 54 stitches, and I am almost to the heel. And I will be using a short row heel, probably the short row heel from the Lifestyle socks. And yeah, I did a video of the short row heel before. I don't typically do an afterthought heel, even when I'm doing self-striping. I usually pull from the other end of the ball when I'm doing self-striping because I do like my stripes to go up the same all the way up. I don't know, I guess I don't understand the fascination with the afterthought heel. I guess it's just me. I guess one of the main reasons I like the toe-up socks is because I can try them on as I go. If I don't put my heel in as I go up, how am I going to try them on? So I don't do the afterthought heel. It sounds like a cool concept. I don't do it. I just do the short row. I mean, maybe people do the afterthought heel because either they're not comfortable with the short row or they don't have a short row heel that they like. I really don't know. If you do an afterthought heel, can you tell me why you do it? Is there a specific reason? Do you just like that heel better? I don't know. I just don't understand the fascination of it. So I will be doing short row heels probably very soon. I mean, if I have as much knitting time as I'm expecting to have this week, You will see lots of progress next week. And this is with Socks That Rock. So I'm really enjoying that. And I think I want to say it's medium weight. Let me double check. Yes, it's medium weight. And I do have Socks That Rock both medium and lightweight. And I think one of the reasons why I pulled this one out was because I was looking for something to take to Stitches with me. And it was going to be a quick knit. And kind of it was, but then I ripped it out and started again. But it's coming right along. And I have another pair of socks. These are the socks. This is the yarn that I originally started before Stitches. And I just wasn't feeling it. I guess because it was such a tiny little yarn. And the yarn is online. That's a little piece. And I don't know, it's superwash and polyamide, and it's on a 0. So it does take a little bit longer to make some progress on it, and I think that's one of the reasons why I wasn't feeling it, because it was taking so long, and I really had to watch it, because when I'm working on the medium weight socks, it has a little bit thicker of a stitch, so I don't have to look at it as much. And I guess I was looking for something that would be easy to knit without having to really pay attention. Now I still don't have to pay attention to these, but because the stitches are so tiny and the needles are so tiny, I do like to watch to make sure that I don't split the yarn or miss the stitch, because it's very easy to do when you're working on zeros. But I really like the yarn. I don't know what it is about this teeny tiny yarn and the texture of it. I mean, it almost feels kind of scratchy, but when you put it on your foot, it just feels nice and warm, and I don't know, I like it. This and like Regia, and what are the other ones that are like this? I don't know, but I really like this yarn, and I wanted to knit it up because Kagi from the High Fiber Diet, she had given me this yarn at camp, and I want to say that it was last year, not this past April, but I think it was the April before, but it could have been this year. But she gave it to me, and I wanted to knit it up before our next camp, which is actually her camp is the Knitting in the Mitten, which I'm going to in 3 weeks. I don't think I'm going to have it done by then, Kagi, but I will try and have it knit up by the time we go to Knitopia in April. And I'm pretty sure that I will, because it is a quick knit when I work on it. Not necessarily a quick knit. I hope that was a cat upstairs, because my husband's not home and I just heard something upstairs. Anyway, so yeah, so I really like the yarn. It's striping up. It's different. It's like a stripe with a multi-stripe. It's not just a stripe. I don't know. I like it. So I just have one sock started. Typically I will start a pair of socks, work to the toe here, and then work the other pair. Because of the fiasco that I had with the other socks, I decided I'm going to work up the foot a little bit just to make sure that this is the stitch count that I want. And I'm pretty sure that it is. I think that with this yarn I typically have the same number of stitches. And 2. Yeah, I have 36 stitches on one side. So 72 stitches. So I think that's about what I do when I do this tiny yarn on size zeros. About 72 stitches, 70, 72, give or take. So I think this will be fine, but I'm just working up the leg a little bit just to make sure. So that's another progress. And I did have some of that started. I had almost all of the toe on that before I left for Stitches, and then I switched to the other socks. But I did make progress on that this week. And then there's Bacardi. which did get some love and which will probably get more love after this, after I finish recording and I get to sit down and watch podcasts. In fact, I might try and see if anybody's on virtual knit night, because I'd like to knit with people, more people today, because I had club today and it was so nice to sit with the ladies and knit, and I just want to continue to sit and knit. So maybe we'll see if there's anybody on virtual knit night. So here's Bacardi. I just started working on this. I haven't worked on it since before the Podcaster Challenge started. And I guess it was around 3 o'clock when I picked this project up. I had worked on all my other projects. This was the last project I needed to work on to be able to say that I made progress. But I still got a decent bit done. And here's my stitch marker. Here it is right here. And I did all of this in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I watched Mommy Needs Yarn after the girls left and had a little bit of dinner, and then I worked on this while I was finished watching her episode from last week. So, good progress considering I only worked on it for an hour this week. So I will definitely be working on more of it. Here is where the armhole starts, right here. So I've got, what, about 3.5 to 4 inches on the armhole, so I think it's got to go to like 7 or 8. I'm not 100% sure. But it's moving along. It's going to make more progress after the show is done recording, after I'm done recording this today. And next week, hopefully, the body will be done. I can't promise that it will be steeked, but it will be done as far as the knitting goes. I'm hoping. We'll see how it goes. But like I said, if I have as much knitting time as I'm hoping for, it should be complete. Then I have to really give some thought about how I'm going to do the arms. I'm still thinking about sewing them in the round and steeking between them, sewing them both together, and then at the same time having a sleeve here with steek stitches in between. And that's still very much an option. I'm just really, really nervous about that for one reason. What happens if I steek this, if I do that and I steek the arms and then I go to sew them into my garment? What if they don't fit? Yeah, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, but I'm trying to be proactive here because it's possible. I mean, granted, I can always knit them again. I have enough yarn. I'm not worried about not having enough yarn, although I don't have enough of one of the colors, but I only have one skein of the dark green, and I think I only have one skein of the dark pink. I don't know. I have to give it some thought, but there has been progress on that. And that takes us to 53 minutes. So I'm going to take a quick break on the camera, just turn it off and turn it back on, because I know at about 55, 57 minutes it's going to shut off anyway. And then I will come back and talk about the next few things that I have to talk about. So hang tight one second. Okay, so what was a second for you ended up being like an hour for me, because when I went to go turn my camera off for 1 second to turn it back on again so that it didn't stop, I noticed that the battery was almost out. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to charge it. I'll upload that segment to the computer, and then I'll come back to do it again. And I have proof, because seconds before that you saw, I had my Bacardi, and I had done that much. Well, I just sat here and then did this many more rows while I was waiting for the camera to charge and to upload to the computer. So that was, I think it was about an hour, so maybe a little bit less. So there's my proof that I did work on it and I wasn't just goofing off while I was waiting to get the camera back. Uh-oh, hang tight. Just dropping some stitches here. Alright, so let's put that away because we were done talking about Bacardi. But I felt like I needed to get some progress on it while I was waiting and I was watching some podcasts. I finally well, I'm still not caught up, but I finally got to watch Knittable's podcast with when she had her bulldogs on it, and it was so cute. And in addition to the dogs, the bird was hilarious jumping on her shoulder. I'm still watching that episode. I had to stop it because I needed to get back to this so I could finish up, and then so I could upload it. So I finished talking about my whips. I finished talking about my spinning. Now I have some more things from Stitches Midwest. I thought I had shown you everything, and as I was sitting this week thinking, like, wait a minute, what did I do with this? And I'm like, oh wait, I didn't show that on the podcast yet. So I have a couple things to show you. The first thing is just a simple thing. It's called Fix-A-Stitch, and I actually have one of these already. But what I like about this is it's a double-ended crochet hook. And let me show you one of the bigger ones because it's easier to see. It's a double-ended crochet hook, and it makes it easy to pick up stitches for garter stitch, for stockinette too, but primarily for garter stitch because it's got the double end on it. It's great for that. And I can't remember how much it was. I want to say that this little set was maybe $15 or something to that effect. But I got it because I just thought it was a neat little tool to have in my tool kit. And then I purchased some glass needles. I've seen them, you know, a couple of the other podcasters showed them, and I thought I need to get some of these. And I went to the booth and I said I want a size 6 needle. I don't really care how long the cable is or what they look like, but I looked at the needles that she had, and she had these really cool needles, and I know you will not be able to see probably, but they have this really cool intricate design, and it's almost like a swirl inside the needle, and they are so cool. I have not used them yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. Michelle, who went with me to Stitches, she also bought a crochet hook, and she was telling me today that she was crocheting with it. She said that if you have like arthritis or anything, these needles are great because they warm up and they warm up to your hand. Well, she told me that her needle got so hot that she had to give it a timeout because it was too hot. She's like, you need to cool down and you need to cool off a little bit. So she had to put her needle down for a little bit because they got so warm. And actually, just by me holding them right now, I can see what she's talking about. So I can't even imagine, you know, furiously crocheting or knitting with them. But I'm really excited about trying them and seeing how they are. My cable length, I want to say the cable length is 29 inches. Yes, it's a size 6 with a 29-inch cable. So, and I got the 6 because it seems like I've been using a lot of size 6 for shawls and stuff like that, and I thought that it would be a good length, so that's why I got that size. So, and again, I haven't used them yet, but I am, let me wrap them back up in this. But I am really excited about getting to use them. And that's from Sheila and Michael Ernst. They have the I think their website is glasspins.com. And I do plan on ordering more. I probably want to order a size 5 because it's a smaller size. And maybe, I don't know what size they go down to, but I might get go down from the size 6 because I typically use the size 6 and smaller. And then the last thing that I got, and I can't believe that I forgot to show you, was I got my first trindle. And I have to put it together because I have had it in the bag. But I have been wanting a trindle for the longest time, ever since, you know, Laura from the Knit Girls talked about them, and I got a trindle, and I love it. I spun with it at the stitches at the booth. It was the Dragonfly Fibers booth, and I must have spun at their booth for probably 15 to 20 minutes, and everybody was just in awe of the spindle and how it worked and all that, and I was even in awe. I was having so much fun. I had a really hard time getting used to the fact that I didn't have a notch to put my yarn in. I had to really, you know, figure out how I was going to latch it around that hook. But once I got, you know, comfortable with it, I was able to do it. I just spun just a little bit while I was at the booth there, but it was coming out really thin. I don't even know what the fiber was. They just said, here, you can spin this, and so I just started spinning it. But I really, really love it. And I don't know, there's a 5.0 on the bag that the little pieces came in. I don't know what that means, and I didn't take the time to weigh it, but they were the lightest arms that they had at the booth the day that I bought it. So I'm very excited about my trindle. I will probably use this one the next time I start a fiber on a spindle. I'm just going to tuck it back in this bag, but I'll put it away with my other spindles later, because I'm really excited about using the trindle. I really like it, and I want to go to their website and see what other kind of arms I can get. So those are my Stitches Midwest. I think that's it. Now, I wanted to mention, I think last week and the week before I mentioned that I have the Zazzle account, or the Zazzle store. Well, I don't know what is up with Zazzle, but the items that I added to the store, the t-shirts, the mugs, all of that, they've gone missing. I have no idea what happened. When I was setting the store up, I had a real hard time getting it set up, trying to access it, because what I did was I tried to access it from another computer that I wasn't logged into Zazzle on, so I could see if I could see the store, and it took a while to get to that. It was not an easy process. And I have decided that I'm setting up a Cafe Press store because Zazzle is just driving me crazy. So I'm in the process of setting up. I signed up for the store, and that's all set up. I just have to add the items. I am hoping to have the items set up sometime this week with my boss out of town. I hope to just take some time this week and set the items up. Maybe even tomorrow, depends on if my hands get tired of knitting furiously. I will set that up, and as soon as I have that set up, I will let you know. I will post it on the Knitting Blooms thread on group on Ravelry, and I will obviously let you know again next week if it's all set up and ready to go. And I might go ahead and, once I get it set up, just go ahead and add the link into the show notes for today. Once it's set up, but it won't be set up right away, so don't go looking for the link right away. And I think the last thing that I want to talk about is the Knit Your Stash competition, or stash down, or whatever. And I've tried to give this a lot of thought, and I don't know if you can hear the laundry in the background. My husband decided to do laundry while I was waiting for the camera. But anyway, hopefully it's not too annoying. But I did try and give this a lot of thought. And I went back and forth on how I wanted yardage to be counted and whatnot. I did want to have something where we have X number, you have to complete X number of yardage to complete the challenge. And something kind of like the stash dash that the knit girls did. They did the 5K stash dash where you had to knit 5,400 and some odd yards. And that is kind of what I would like to do. I would like to do a stash down where you're knitting a specific number of yards and you have to knit that many yards in order to complete the challenge. Now, complete the challenge, I'm hoping that it's not going to be, excuse me, extremely difficult. I'm thinking around 6,000 yards, well, not around, 6,000 yards is going to be the distance that you have to knit. You have to knit, you can start immediately. As soon as this podcast is posted, you can start immediately. And you have until December 31st. And it will be like the morning of December 31st. I will record in the afternoon on the 31st, and then that's when I will lock the thread and everything will be locked from there. And I will probably go ahead and do drawings on the 31st as well, because there are going to be prizes. At this moment, I do not know what prizes. So the challenge will run from today, October 8th, to December 31st. It's 12 weeks. And you have to knit 6,000 yards to complete the challenge. Now, I'm not saying that you have to knit 6,000 yards to be entered into the drawing. I'm saying that you have to knit 6,000 yards to complete the challenge. There will be some special gift for everybody who completes the challenge, who does the 6,000 yards. Now, here are the stipulations to get to that 6,000 yards. And I think that this is very doable. It's not as elaborate as the knit girls did theirs, but I think it's very doable. First, all of the yarn must come from stash. For instance, for me, any of my knitting for hire is not countable. Okay? No counting knitting for hire for me. It has to come from your stash. If tomorrow you go out and you buy yarn from Joann's, that does not count. Or from the yarn store or wherever. If you buy yarn and knit it between now and December 31st, that yarn does not count. So you have to, unless, let me take that back, unless it's for a gift, which I'll get to in a minute. It has to come from your stash if you're knitting it. Okay? It can't be my knitting for hire, because that was a lot of what my knitting has already been. You do not necessarily have to finish the project. You just have to knit it. So let's say you're working on a sweater and it takes 10 balls at 100 yards a ball, and you knit through 6 balls. That's 600 yards. Just count what you've actually knitted. If the project is already started and you already have 3 balls into it, you cannot count those 3 balls. You can only count the 3 balls that you've already, that you're knitting, or you're knit during this time period. Destash. You can count yardage that you destash as long as you give the yarn away. You cannot sell the yarn. You have to give it away. You can give it to a charity, you can give it to your best friend, you can give it to whomever. You can give it away. You cannot sell it. But the yardage that you destash and you give away, you can count. So if you give away 6 balls of yarn at 250 yards a ball, you can count that. And the big thing that I think will hopefully encourage a lot of people, if you knit a gift, if it's a holiday gift, or if it's just a birthday gift, or a baby gift, or whatever, or if you knit an item for charity, all of that yardage can be doubled. So if you knit a baby blanket that's 800 yards, that's 1,600 yards that you can add right there. Boom. 1,600 yards down. So 6,000 yards with those kind of rules, I think is very doable. So start working on your Christmas gifts, start working on all your holiday gifts, your birthday presents, your any babies you have that are coming up. Get them going again. But you have to knit. You have to knit the yarn between today and December 31st. Like I said, if you have a baby blanket that's half done, you can only count what you knit today. Now, you're probably asking, well, what happens if I already knit some of it and I don't know how much I knit? If you have some of it knit and you can kind of mark it or just kind of keep track as you're going, just guesstimate. It's not rocket science. It doesn't have to be spot on. If you're working through a ball and it's 250 yards and you get done, you finish the project or whatever, and you've knit through half of it, then you count half of the yarn. But don't use half of a ball and count it as 3/4 of the way used, or don't use a quarter of it and count it as the whole ball. Whatever. Just, I'm leaving, this is going to be, I mean, obviously it's all up to you guys to be on the honor system, but the idea is to knit through your stash, to get some of the things out of your stash. If you know 100% you're not going to use it, then de-stash it. Give it to somebody who will use it. Give it to somebody who doesn't have the money to buy another ball of yarn and likes to knit and doesn't have a stash or whatever. But it is very doable. I figure I can, I think 6,000 yards in 12 weeks, I think it's like 500 yards a week. That's not, I mean, I can knit 100 yards in one day if I'm knitting for a couple of hours. So it's very, very doable. And that's if I don't do gifts and I don't double my yarn and I don't give any away. So it's very doable. So let's get started. I'm going to open up a thread for Knit Your Stash. You can start posting. We're going to do something similar to how they've done the stash dash and the stash downs before, where you open up your post, you commit to doing it, and then you go back and you edit that post to add pictures. If you're working on a project, post a link to your project page and put a link of how many yards you knit on that project during this time period. And if you want to go back and edit it as you go, or just wait, you know, until you finish that project or whatever. I think it's easier to just keep a tally on a note sheet throughout the week, and then at the end of the week update your posts. That's what I'm planning on doing. But you will have one post in the thread, and then you can post pictures of finished objects. You can just put notes as I'm working on this project. Here's a link to my project page. So far I have knit this much during the time period. And then like with the other challenges for the stash dash and the stash down, put put your completed total, how many yards to date that you've knit, at the bottom of your post, so that as I'm scrolling down I can see, you know, how many yards you've knit or destashed. And keep your yardage, if you could, keep your yardage separate. Keep it as yardage knit, yardage destash, yardage doubled. So for the yardage doubled for the gifts, charity knitting, whatnot, have one for that, and then your doubled separate. So let's say you knit a hat for somebody and it took 150 yards. You would have knit 150 yards, and then and then under your doubled category you'd have 150 yards. I'll try and put that information more in detail in the thread so you can understand. If you have questions, please feel free to contact me. I'm open to questions. And like I said, there will be prizes. I don't know exactly what the prizes are going to be. It's probably going to be some Knitting Blooms swag, maybe some books, maybe some yarn, even though we probably don't need any yarn if we have a huge stash. But there probably will be some yarn involved. I don't know what else. We'll see if there's any vendors that would like to make a donation to for the prizes for this Knit Your Stash contest, and we'll go from there. And I hope a lot of you guys join in, and hopefully it'll be very encouraging to start knitting up some of those holiday gifts to for giveaways for your family and friends. And last but not least, I would like to mention that if you are watching on iTunes, or even if you're not watching on iTunes, please go to iTunes and leave a star rating or a comment for this podcast and all your other podcasts. I haven't seen any new comments lately, and I don't really. I look at the star ratings, but I don't always remember how many were there before. So it's kind of hard for me to tell if there's been some star ratings lately. But go and rate all your podcasts. I try and do that myself. Like when I'm watching a podcast and somebody says at the end of their podcast, as soon as the podcast is over, I click off and go right over to iTunes and try and leave a rating if I haven't already done for that podcast. So please take a moment and go and leave a star rating or a comment on iTunes for this and all your other podcasts. And I think that's it. We're going to be well over an hour today, and I'm sorry about that, but I had a lot to talk about. And hopefully next week, although I'm going to have a lot of knitting, hopefully it won't be this long, but we'll see how it goes. So I hope you all have a great week and a great rest of the weekend for you. And I hope your knitting blooms this week. Talk to you later. Bye.